Well, the Australian cricket team has not really had a lot to cherish or celebrate on this tour to India. Things you would say are just beginning to get better for them because they did manage to make a fighting comeback in the series. But let's not forget that they're still trailing the series courtesy the two defeats and the heavy manner in which that they suffered those defeats. It's courtesy those two defeats in Delhi and of course firstly in Nagpur that Australia find themselves trailing in this series. Yes, things are getting better for them, but over the course of the last 3 weeks that they've spent here in India, there's been more criticism or let's say fair amount of criticism that the Aussie players and the team management have had to face. At times it's got to do with the selection, at times it's got to do with the short selection, at times with the team composition, at times with the captaincy. So there's been a lot of barrage of criticism and you know a lot of things that have been said about the Australian cricket team. But Sunil Gavaskar, the man that you see on the screen right now, feels that the real culprit, so the actual blame of Australia trailing in this series isn't doesn't lie on the players or the team management or the coach, none of that. He feels that the actual culprits for the fact that Australia lost those two matches terribly is because of the selectors. Why does he feel so? Well, let's just quickly tell you what he has to say. Sunil Gavaskar, as he tears into the Australian selection committee, he says, how can the selection committee pick 3 players? And when he says 3 players, he refers to Josh Hazlewood, Mitchell Starc and Cameron Green, who they knew would not be available for selection for the first 2 test matches. So he's cast questions as to why in that draft of 18 players that they had for this test series, why did they have 3 players to begin with who weren't going to be fit? And the whole point that Sunny G is making over here is they should have had a pool of players from whom they could have actually gone ahead and chosen players who were fit for this tour, players who could have been actual options for the team management to pick from, because from that pool of 18 players you didn't have the 3 players that he's talked about here in the first 2 test matches. So that's half the series that he says for which you didn't have 3 key players or 3 slots were left empty. Let's move ahead and tell you what more he said. He goes on to say that for half of the series the team management only had 13 players and the other 3 players, like we told you, were not available. So that's what he says here to pick from. He then says that they then fly in a newcomer in Matthew Kuhneman when they had a similar player ready in the test team. A very valid point, if you ask me, that Sunny G makes over here, and that also casts questions on the selectors as far as the handling of Ashton Agar is concerned, because what we know is that he's been subtly told that he is going to be in the scheme of things as far as white ball cricket goes. But why then was he drafted in the first place? He was only warming the bench, he was sent back, and in came Matthew Kuhneman, who had absolutely no experience of playing test cricket. Yes, you could argue that he's responded very well to this maiden call-up in test cricket that he's gotten. But having said that, when you look at it from the starting point, or how the Australians actually strategized this whole series or were preparing for it, Sunny G has now questioned the way the selectors were really strategizing and planning forward. He's also made some comments as far as the composition and the pool of players is concerned, and he continues to say that if they didn't think that player in the team was good enough, why did they even pick him in the first place? Again, referring to Ashton Agar, because he was brought in then sent back to Australia. That meant that the team management was picking their 11 from 12 players, which is ridiculous, is what Sunny G says, that it doesn't just make sense as to why they would not give themselves enough options, enough fit players, and why is it that in the first place they made these choices. So this that's just to in a gist, let's say what he means over here is why exactly did the Australian selectors go ahead and pick a team or draft a team rather which had unfit players? And why were players that the team management wasn't confident in, why were those players drafted in the team? Because that means that essentially you're just cutting down on the number of options that you have. Plus, let's not forget there were two debutants as well, or two youngsters in Todd Murphy, also in Matthew Kuhneman, who had absolutely no experience of playing test cricket. And which is why, just because of the way the whole thing is panned out over the last 3 weeks here in India, he feels that the selectors are the real culprits and they should be resigning if they have any sense of responsibility. So scathing attack from Sunil Gavaskar when he was asked about the whole selection process that Australia have, the whole way in which the Australian selection committee has gone ahead as far as their job is concerned, and Sunny G not mincing any words as far as the selection committee is concerned. Do let us know in the comment section if you agree with Sunil Gavaskar. Do you think indeed that the Australian selection committee should have done a better job, should have given the team management a bigger pool of players to choose from? Let us know in the comment section if you agree with the Indian legend or not. For now, that's all the time that we have.